We are back. Today, I have to apologize for the absence. I was gone the whole weekend and I did not want to work while I was on vacation. But we are going to talk about 5 Pokemon in this metagame that I think are a little overlooked. You might look at like some of these and be like, they're not overlooked, you know, they're bad or they're doing just fine, you know, considering their place in the metagame. But these are certainly Pokemon I just want to like bring attention to and inform viewers about because they're really interesting. Like I'm gonna call this like 5 overlooked Pokemon or underused Pokemon in Regulation H or whatever. But really, it's more just Pokemon I think people should know about going forward in team building because they have some potential. So yeah, you know, if you guys enjoy this standpoint in time, do me a favor, leave a like in the video, subscribe to the channel and turn notifications. And ad for me, not Gamer Subs, different ad. Hi, do you like giving me money? That's what I thought. I've spent the last 8 years on YouTube building wacky teams with just about every Pokemon that I could, and while I'm not an absolute top tier player, I've got some really cool achievements to my name like 18th place at Knoxville Regionals, top 64th in North American International Championships, and I even qualified to compete at the World Championships, but don't ask me how that went. If you want to support my channel while also getting something really cool in return, you can consult me to help you improve one of your teams. I'll help you fix up anything, even that weird Dragology team I know you got kicking around the team builder. If you send a $25 tip to me and fill out the form in the description, within 1 to 3 days I'll have tried out your team and sent you back a write-up with various versions of it and some replays to help you get on the right path to make that weird Scovillain team work. Why $25? There's like 180,000 of you subscribed. If I did any less, I would never finish these. Link to have me personally fix your team below. You get to support the channel and blame me for losing your next event. Okay, back to the video. This isn't coaching. So yeah, that's a thing I offer now. You know, if you want to support the channel, it helps out a lot. Anyways, so it's not coaching though. I don't do coaching, but yeah. So I got 5 Pokemon here that I want to talk about for various reasons, but mostly they just have to do with like how they match up into stuff that's currently going on in the metagame, or I just strongly feel that they have high potential and can do really well. So yeah, we're gonna start off with the first one. It's gonna be Toxicroak. Now Toxicroak's really interesting. It is a Pokemon that typically only really does well in like restricted formats, but it actually has some potential currently with how strong Rain is, and it's one particular niche in its matchup against Archaludon. So this Pokemon is a poison fighting type with 106 attack and 85 speed. Every other stat doesn't really matter because it is not bulky. Its special attack stat I suppose is kind of interesting, but I don't think you really want to run a mixed attacker on this guy. But yeah, its ability is Dry Skin, which is really cool. Because of how common Rain matchups are, it's actually super easy to maintain a Focus Sash. Like if you get faked out, there's a pretty high chance that the Rain will just immediately bring you back up to your Sash either at the end of this turn or the next turn. It's also a Pokemon with access to Fake Out, which is really cool. It's one of the faster Fake Out users in the format, and when I say faster Fake Out users, I mean like Rillaboom and its speed tie, but you're very unlikely to see Jolly max speed Rillaboom in the metagame. You're more likely going to see like Adamant variants where Toxicroak, basically its only EV spread, unless you want to go with like Assault Vest, is going to be this 252 with 4 HP and the Focus Sash. Terra Ghost is also like super strong because it allows you to block Fake Outs and maintain your Sash a little bit easier. But yeah, mostly the utility this guy gets is in his stab moves, because his main stabs are going to be close combat and poison jab, but he also has access to Sucker Punch, which is really cool. This guy is basically like an all-in-one, not a check, but like a thing to make the Rain matchup more difficult for the opponent. So, you know, obviously Fake Out's good, but the Archaludon matchup is what's interesting here. Basically, Archaludon is a Pokemon in the metagame, which is very, very annoying. I'm sure you've seen him around. He's basically like top 1% metagame, not top 1%. He's like the 3rd in the metagame. You can see here on Lab Mouse. There's a lot of Archaludon Rain. We see it here with a score of 184. I'm also coming out with a video soon explaining how Lab Mouse works, but it's a really cool website. But you can see Archaludon's everywhere right now. It's super, super annoying, and it snowballs really easily. Now, the main reason Archaludon's actually really scary is because of its access to Terra. You know, everything has access to Terra, but Archaludon makes really, really good use of it. It'll typically only really be like Terra Grass or Terra Fairy at this moment. There are also like Terra Electric ones here and there, but we're mostly concerned with the ones that are Terra Grass or Terra Fairy, because that allows for them to, Terra Fairy especially, resist the fighting type moves going into it. And Toxicroak has this niche of being able to say, oh, I don't care if you Terra Fairy'd. That close combat might have given you a defense boost, but this poison jab's still going to hurt. So, one reason One reason we're running close combat, by the way, is Archaludon isn't nearly as heavy as you think. Within lore, the metal that Archaludon is made out of is actually like super, super light, which is really funny. So if you actually compare low kick and close combat, low kick maxes out at the same like base power as close combat. So you can see it's actually not even hitting for more than 80 base power against Archaludon. So that's why you want to just have CC instead. So CC is going to be doing 73% to 86 to like, you know, max HP for defense Archaludon, which is, you know, fairly standard. That's a set that you'll see. So if they end up at +1, you know, and your initial one does 73%, now they have a defense boost. The next one is going to do 48. So that is a guaranteed 2-hit KO, which is really, really nice in that matchup. Now, let's say that they end up going for the Terra Fairy against you because they're like, oh, hey, I want to make sure I don't drop to that close combat. Like, let's say they're in range of that. Then the, you know, either your initial close combat is going to be resisted. So we're going to Terra it into a Fairy type. Your initial close combat is going to be doing like 18%. And then now that it's a Fairy type, your next best move is going to obviously be Poison Jab. The Poison Jab, not the strongest move, but it makes the matchup a lot easier than it would be otherwise. At +1 defense, your Poison Jab will then be doing 33% to 39. So while it isn't doing a ton of damage, if they, you know, call it immediately, you also have like the potential to call it, and it makes it kind of a difficult 50-50 for them, because if they aren't at +1, if you do get that that turn correct and you go for the Poison Jab, the very risky Poison Jab, mind you, into the Fairy Archaludon, it is going to be doing 48 to 57%, and you have that chance to poison, which can really screw over Archaludon, because it's going to make it so it's taking chip damage at the end of each turn. That is very, very, very bad for it, because it wants to make sure it's difficult to knock out, and that chip damage just makes it so much easier to break through those defenses. So yeah, that's really cool. I mean, on top of that, you know, this guy's also able to switch in on like Weather Ball from opposing Pelipper and Wave Crash from opposing Basculegion. And the Sucker Punch is just really nice into Basculegion. Basculegion does resist everything else this guy wants to go for, but if they are using like the Life Orb Swift Swim set, your Sucker Punch is going to be doing like 49 to 58%. You're completely immune to their Wave Crash, but Last Respects will hurt. So you can like switch in on Wave Crash, Sucker Punch them, and then Sucker Punch them again, and that should do the job if they're Life Orb. That's really good. Yeah, really cool Pokemon, really interesting. I just wanted to throw it out there. I mean, other things it matches up pretty decently into. It is able to outspeed Annihilate, but not Mousehold, obviously. But you can threaten Mousehold with like Fake Out into CC or whatever, so that's pretty decent. You're also threatening to Hydreigon, you're threatening to Clefable, which is a really big thing in the metagame right now. Clefable is super, super strong because of its ability to ignore boosts and just follow me away everything, and it's just super fat. So really, really interesting matchup spread that Toxicroak is capable of. Next up is going to be Delphox. Now, Delphox might seem like a crazy one to include on this list, but here's the thing. Delphox, while it's not like the strongest Pokemon ever, is sort of min-maxed. It has 114 special attack and 104 speed. And while that might not seem like a lot, it is a lot in the fact that the speed tiers of this metagame are super, super skewed towards like middling speed stats. So if you look at like how fast things get, Electrode isn't used, Electrodesui isn't used, Dragapult is used, Barraskewda isn't used, Jolteon isn't used, Talonflame is used, Kilowattrel isn't used, Weavile, Ribombee, those aren't used, Meowscarada is used, Greninja, Noivern, like nothing until you get to like basically Whimsicott is used. So like all but for 4 or 5 Pokemon, you end up having what's it called? Why am I forgetting your name? It's literally on screen. Delphox. You end up having Delphox outspeed like a solid chunk of the metagame and being able to threaten something really, really cool. So Delphox is actually able to run the move Expanding Force. Now, Expanding Force is typically a move run on like Trick Room Psy-Spam teams, but Delphox will sort of play almost like Iron Crown did in previous metagames because it's like a decently fast Pokemon with a good special attack stat that's able to click Expanding Force for solid damage. Like Iron Crown was slower, but it had like the speed boosting booster energy and 122 special attack, where Delphox on the other hand is 114 special attack, 104 speed. You're going to be outspeeding a lot of important things, but I think the most important one is going to be Pokemon like Garchomp and Annihilate, because the Mouse-8 matchup gets so much easier when you don't have to deal with Follow Me and when you don't have to deal with getting outsped by the Annihilate itself. If we take a look, if I put this in the damage calculator here, right? Save to custom sets, and yep, okay, thank you, and put in the Annihilate. bulk up set, like just standard bulk up. Annihilate doesn't really Terra into anything that resists Psychic. It's usually going to turn into a Water type or a Fire type. Like those are the two Terras that it goes for. So it's like, yes, obviously you can outspeed and KO it immediately with Expanding Force if Psychic Terrain is active, which you would just run an NDD next to this thing, obviously. But you can see here, Delphox. That's not it. Delphox, Life Orb, Side Spam, here. You can see here that Expanding Force in Psychic Terrain is just an instant KO. Obviously, Mouse holds next to it, so you're going to have to deal with that. It's going to have the Friend Guard, but they're not able to go for side beat up and take the Expanding Force consistently because, you know, you max out at like 92. You max out on 92% versus a super special defensive Annihilate. If they're not actually like, you know, super special defensive and they have a decent amount of speed, like sometimes you'll see like 252 HP and then like much less special bulk, then you're going to be doing a pretty solid chunk of damage there. If they do decide to Terra, you have different options, right? The Mouse Hold's going to drop to this, by the way, so the Mouse Hold will be gone by the end of the first turn. But if they do Terra, you're still going to be doing like 42 to 50%. And on top of that, you can actually just go for Psychic Terra, which I think is going to be the best one on it at this point. It's fast enough where it doesn't really need to worry about defensively Terraing. You just want to make sure you get as much damage as you can. So if you go Psychic Terra and Terrastalize, you're doing 56 to 67% once that, you know, with that Friend Guard. And then once Friend Guard's gone, you're actually threatening to do up to like 90% damage versus it. And of course, if it isn't Terra'd, it's just instantly gone, even with the Friend Guard. Friend Guard does not save it from Expanding Force. So they are forced to go for their Terra, and that allows for you to more easily follow up with the Pokemon in the back. As long as you have like more Pokemon that outspeed Annihilate, it becomes a very like trivial matchup. Not to mention, Fire types are actually like kind of starving in this metagame. So having a decent Fire type is really cool. Delphox also matches up into a lot of important Pokemon right now. Like Rillaboom, it just absolutely obliterates Rillaboom. It obliterates Tauroses. It does pretty good into Dondozo, actually, as long as you're outspeeding them. Because it's sort of like the closest thing we have to that Fluttermane Unga Bunga, where you would just hit them with a special attack and they would drop. Like if we take a look at like +2 Dondozo, right? Paragrass Oblivious, why not, right? Not that one. That one doesn't have a lot of HP. They're like Terra Steel bulky and they're not Terra, whatever. And they are at +2 special defense. You can see that your Terra Psychic Expanding Force is still doing like 35 to 42%. So you can sort of Unga Bunga through them. You also have Heat Wave if they do decide to Terra, then you know your Heat Wave's gonna be doing like 31 to 37. But yeah, it's an interesting Pokemon. It's basically just like a fast variant of Armarouge, where you don't have to worry about the Trick Room, and it's just, yeah, you also have access to Trick Room if you really want to, but Delphox is really cool. I think it's a pretty interesting Pokemon that people should take a look at. Next up is Kommo-o. Now, I've used this on the channel before, and it's pretty simple. Kommo-o is kind of up in the metagame right now because of the fact that there are almost no fairy types. The most prominent fairies are Primarina, Sylveon, and I don't know, sometimes you'll see like a Comfey. Like really, like we're starved for good fairy types. Like it's Alchemy, Clefable. I guess number one would be Clefable, right? So Clefable does give this set issues, but it doesn't really matter if you Terra Steel and Flash Cannon into it. Basically what Kommo-o is able to do is it's able to use its signature move of Clangorous Soul, lose 33% of its health and get a Omni boost, so it's +1 in everything. That allows for it to now outspeed like super important Pokemon. I believe you outspeed Dragapult at 137. I think you can even go lower and outspeed Dragapult. I don't feel like doing that math right now. But you also get like a Choice Specs boost. You get like an Assault Vest boost. You have a defense. It's good, right? And then the Throat Spray, because Clangorous Soul is a sound-based move, actually gives you +1 again. So you end up at +2 special attack and +1 in everything else, just at the cost of 33% of your health. At which point you're able to click moves like Flash Cannon with Terra Steel for major damage onto those fairy types that would otherwise wall you, or just go for Clanging Scales, which does a ton of damage into like the majority of Pokemon. We can actually take a look at like how much damage it would do to, let's go with like Assault Vest Archaludon. Let's say you're concerned that they're gonna like Terra into Terra Grass, and instead of going for, you know, Aura Sphere, you want to just go for the Clanging Scales because it's guaranteed damage. So if we take a look at this, custom, and then Archaludon, this is also very good into Annihilate, obviously, because you're outspeeding it. But you can see that Clangorous Soul at Clanging Scales at +2 is going to be doing like 38 to 45% versus it. And because you can Terra Steel into it, you actually don't even have to worry about like getting Draco Meteored back. And yeah, you can just keep spamming that. Obviously, you could also use Aura Sphere if you really want to like drop Protect for it. I think that's worth it sometimes, because then your Aura Sphere is doing, you know, 75 to 88% to Archuludon right off the bat, which is really, really strong considering Archuludon. Oh wait, that's even with Friend Guard. I forgot to turn off Friend Guard. No, Aura Sphere is just one-shotting. I was gonna say, like, that doesn't seem right. But yeah, Aura Sphere does like 100% to 118, and Clanging Scales is a 2-shot. So that's really, really good. You're also outspeeding a bunch of important Pokemon at that point, like Meowscarada, which doesn't hit you for very hard unless you're Terra'd. Or not even if you're Terra'd. Yeah, it doesn't hit you at all because you're Terra Steel most of the time, so Flower Trick doesn't matter. It's just knockoff, really. But you resist everything Meowscarada throws at you, other than Triple Axle. So that's really nice. Other important Pokemon in the metagame you're able to deal with now. You hard wall Volcarona, you hard wall Rillaboom, you're able to deal with Kingambit. Really, it's just Clefable. Also with Bulletproof, like, you do really well into Golden Go because you're immune to Shadow Ball and you're able to tank Make It Rains with Terra Steel. It's just like a really good metagame for this guy. I'd say like the hardest matchup it has is versus Whimsicott and Typhlosion, because Whimsicott Typhlosion can pressure you to Terra, but then they just like, you know, they can hit you with like Eruption and Moonblast and you lose regardless. Like that's a losing matchup for it, but like beyond that, it's very simple to run this guy. Zoroark is really interesting. I've always been a Zoroark hater. I think Zoroark is like a bad Pokemon. But in this metagame in particular, it doesn't even matter. It has the stats to succeed, and its gimmick is just a little bonus. That's how it should have been, right? Zoroark basically relied on its gimmick in previous metagames, which is why it wasn't good. Where now, its speed stat and its special attack stat are enough to carry it. And the gimmick of changing in its of like looking like another Pokemon before it takes a super effective attack or hits with like a certain move is just gravy on top of it all. So Choice Spec Zoroark is really scary, and we can actually see that there was a very successful Zoroark team very recently. It's been doing rounds on the size spam trick room teams. So yeah, why is Zoroark good? Well, it's very simple. You run a Choice Spec Zoroark, right? Let me take this. Let's put in the damage calculator. Okay. You run a Choice Spec Zoroark, right? Terra Normal, 252, 252. 110 outspeeds basically everything in the metagame other than Whimsicott and Mousehold. And then, if you lead off with Indeedee Armarouge, but your Armarouge is secretly a Zoroark, and they want to like make sure that they like, you know, KO the Indeedee and like stop you from getting Trick Room off, you can just like break their ankles and go, actually, I didn't do that. I went for Helping Hand, Terra Normal, Hyper Voice, because this is not an Armarouge, this is a Zoroark. And now your Hyper Voice is doing into, I don't know, let's go with like a Rillaboom that like is Miracle Seed and not like Assault Vest. Your Hyper Voice is doing 108% to a Rillaboom because it's Terra Normal Choice Specs with a Helping Hand. So that's a little messed up. Let's say they have an Incineroar and it's like, you know, Terra Grass. Let's do like Bulky Citrus. Incineroar is taking 73 to 87%. It's a little gross. It's kind of gross damage. It sort of plays like a baby Ursaluna. Like that's the best way to put it. It's like Ursaluna, you know, went on a diet, lost a bunch of weight, can fit into everyone else's clothes and dress up like them, and then click like a Hyper Voice and everything. It's such a gimmicky thing, but it works. It works is the worst part. Like Zoroark has good matchups. It hard walls Mouseape. Like they don't hit you. They literally cannot physically hit a Zoroark because it's normal and ghost. So yeah, that's I don't know. I don't have much else to say other than why do you work? Why are you actually working? I hate you. The final one I'm going to take a look at is Kingdra. I think Kingdra is a little underexplored. Now, normally I would say Kingdra is actually like not really cutting it as like a Life Orb or like Choice Spec special attacker. But I think it does have this niche. Sorry, I have to clear my throat. I think it does have this one really interesting niche as a Swift Swim Scope Lens Focus Energy Draco Meteor bot. And we've known about this set forever, but I think that in this format, it's especially good because it's one of the faster Swift Swim users. You're going to outspeed Basculegion, allowing for you to, you know, revenge KO with Draco Meteor. Obviously, like, they're only outspeeding things if Rain is active. So if Rain's active, you win that war. You just Draco Meteor them back. But you're also able to click, you know, Focus Energy, have that Scope Lens active, and now all of your moves are auto crits. Terra Water crit Muddy Water in Rain is going to be one-shotting a ton of Pokemon, but more importantly, you're able to use like Draco Meteor as a way to absolutely break through Archaludons and more importantly, Dondozo. Dondozo, you know, at +2 is a scary Pokemon. Dondozo at +2 special defense can outspeed and KO and live a lot of hits. But if you are a sniper, not sniper, I don't think you want to be sniper. I think you just want to be like, what's it called? I'm putting Eviolite here so I can just do the crit calculation. If you are a crit Kingdra, you can click Draco Meteor into it. It crits, and lo and behold, it's dead. It's gone. You no longer have to worry. You can even like Terra Water, and your crit, like, ow, my cat is digging his claws into my leg. Ow, that hurt. All right. You can even like Terra Water, Muddy Water, and you're doing like 33 to 39% into what is a resisted Pokemon. And that's without Rain, because Rain, it makes it a 2-shot. So yeah, this Pokemon has a lot of potential. I don't think it's like the best Pokemon in the metagame, but it's like saying that like will do well into like Mouse Ape. It'll do well into Sun teams as long as you can get your Rain active at the right time. And it's like a decent check to Archaludon if you're able to position it in the right spot to go for that Draco Meteor. And yeah, like just into like Rain, it's like a counter Rain Pokemon, even though you have to run your own Rain team around it. But yeah. That's it for today's video. I just want to talk about these 5 Pokemon, give my thoughts on them, say that I think they have a lot of potential. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section down below if you think there's a Pokemon I overlooked that I should be talking about. And what Pokemon do you want me to use in a future video? And also, you know, check out the little thing I'm doing, the little team building help. I'd really support the channel a lot. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.